Sarah, thank you. A couple of questions about the new policy on transgender service members the President announced this morning. First, what happens to transgender service members now? Are they immediately thrown out of the military?
That's something that the Department of Defense and the White House will have to work together as implementation takes place and is done so lawfully.
So it's possible, because I see that, I mean, the President was pretty clear in his tweet that transgender individuals, he will not accept or allow a transgender individual to serve in any capacity. So does that mean that those that are now in theater, that are now deployed to Afghanistan, for example, will have to be immediately sent home and
Again,
discharged?
the implementation policy is going to be something that the White House and the Department of Defense have to work together to lawfully determine. And I would imagine the Department of Defense will be the lead on that and keep you posted as that takes place.
Why did he decide to do this, given that during the campaign he had declared that he would protect the rights of transgender individuals? He said he would be better on this issue than Hillary Clinton, and now he's turned the clock back on this issue regarding the military.
The President has a lot of support for all Americans and certainly wants to protect all Americans at all times. The President's expressed concern since this Obama policy came into effect, but he's also voiced that this is a very expensive and disruptive policy, and based on consultation that he's had with his national security team, came to the conclusion that it erodes military readiness and unit cohesion, and made the decision based on that. Kevin.
Thank you, Sarah. If I could follow up on what Jonathan just said, that the President actually tweeted, "Thank you to the LGBT community. I will fight for you," while Hillary brings in more people that will threaten your freedoms and beliefs. And so I'm wondering, you said the policy, the President in general wants to protect all Americans. Does this shift in policy protect transgender Americans, and what is the message that he is attempting to send to them by making this shift in policy? And if I could follow on health care.
Let me answer that first
Sure,
question, then we'll come back to healthcare. On that, the decision is based on a military decision. It's not meant to be anything more than that, and it's simply about, obviously, it's a very difficult decision. It's not a simple one, but the President feels that it's the best one for the military.
Okay, on health, actually tweeted, "Thank you to the LGBT community. I will fight for you," while Hillary brings in more people that will threaten your freedoms and beliefs. And so I'm wondering, you said the policy, the President in general wants to protect all Americans. Does this shift in policy protect transgender Americans, and what is the message that he is attempting to send to them by making this shift in policy? And if I could follow on health care.
Let me answer that first question, then we'll come back to healthcare. On that, the decision is based on a military decision. It's not meant to be anything more than that, and it's simply about, obviously, it's a very difficult decision. It's not a simple one, but the President feels that it's the best one for the military.
Okay, on health care.
The question is the President considering looking at any kind of policy about transgender people serving in the White House now that he's tried to make a decision on transgender people serving in the military?
No, once again, this was a decision based on what was best for the military and military cohesion, and on the counsel of his national security team. Go ahead, Major.
So the impression we get at the Pentagon is they were a little bit flat-footed by the President's tweets, and as I understand it, this was and has been for the last couple of weeks a conversation here specifically about TRICARE coverage for transgender procedures, and it suddenly evolved for the President to then go on Twitter to announce this ban. And as you already told us, the White House and the Pentagon are going to have to lawfully implement that. Typically when you have an announcement of this magnitude, all of that work has been done at the procedural level between the bureaucracy of the Pentagon and the White House. Why wasn't any of that work done, and why was the Pentagon caught so surprised this morning by the President's tweets on that?
As I said before, that the President's national security team was part of this consultation. You mentioned yourself that there have been ongoing conversations.
When this one particular smaller issue, not a whole ban.
Right. When the President made the decision yesterday, the Secretary of Defense was immediately informed, as were the rest of the national security team that had been part of this ongoing conversation.
But you can't answer the question of what's going to happen to transgenders who are in the military now. Shouldn't you have been able to answer that basic question with a policy of this magnitude?
Look, I think sometimes you have to make decisions, and once he made a decision, he didn't feel it was necessary to hold that decision, and they're going to work together with the Department of Defense to lawfully implement it.
Up in June of 2016, in the heat of the campaign, he wrote, "Thank you to the LGBT community, I will fight for you." Did the president today just betray his commitment to the transgender community?
No, as I answered before, this was a decision about military readiness, and I've already answered even to that specific tweet.
You say to the transgender community that he is still committed to fight for them, and how is this not fighting for them today?
I think the president has made very clear he's committed to fighting for all Americans.
All Americans?
No.
Sarah,
Go ahead.
Sarah, thank you very much, Sarah. Was this decision on transgender in the military made to put pressure on Democrats running in 2018, particularly Democrats running in socially conservative districts like in Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin?
Not that I'm aware.
There's been a concern from the transgender community before President Trump became President Trump that if Obamacare changed to Trump care, they were wondering if they were able to get the procedures to help them complete their phases of becoming the other sex or the other gender. What do you say to those people who are seeing this now with this ban in the military? What do you say to Transgender America who wants to continue with the change? Maybe some who already had part of the change and want to do the change and are scared because of what's happening now, not for certain. What do you say to Transgender America?
As I've said before, and I'll try to make this clear, this was a military decision. This was about military readiness. This was about unit cohesion. This was about resources within the military and nothing more. Guys, I really don't have anything else to add on that topic. As I do, I'll keep you posted. But if those are the only questions we have, I'm going to call it a day. But if we have questions on other topics, I'll be happy to take it.
Not here in this country, but overseas. And there are 18 countries where transgender service members are allowed to serve openly. The UK is one, Australia is another, Israel is a third. The president in his tweet this morning referred to disruptions. What does he mean? And is he concerned that there are disruptions in our allies' militaries in Australia and the UK and Israel? And should we worry about that from a military standpoint?
As I said earlier, this decision was made after extensive discussions with his national security team, and the president decided it was in the best interest of the military to end this Obama policy. I can't speak to anything about another country. Pretty focused on making sure we get good things happening here. Zeke.